with Boomerocity, and I've got a fun little interview for you today. As always, I am interviewing this episode Steve Rothery of the prog rock group Marillion. And how fun is that? Of course, Marillion's been around for quite a while, and Steve is their guitar player, and he has teamed up recently with Thorsten Quaeschning of Tangerine Dream, and they have come out with a great new project called Bioscope. It is phenomenal. It's all instrumental, and it sounds like great movie or TV music, and very just it'll engulf you, let's put it that way. And I'm told that if you listen to it with via Dolby Atmos, it will blow your mind. I've yet to hear anything through that system, but I sure look forward to doing so someday. But this is an amazing album that you'll definitely want to add to your collection, especially if you're a Marillion or Tangerine Dream fan. This will meet and exceed all expectations. So while you're listening to this great interview with Steve, and he was over in the UK when we did this interview, would you please hit like? And if you're not already a Boomerocity subscriber, would you go ahead and hit that subscribe button too? Won't cost you a dime, but it sure helps us out a lot, and helps us keep doing what we're doing here. So without any further ado, here's my first of what I hope are many more interviews with Steve Rothery of Marillion. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Steve, where are you clicking in from?
I'm in my studio at home.
In the UK, correct?
Yes, just it's about an hour and a quarter northwest of London.
Nice. I've never been to England. I hope to make it there someday in my travels, but I've made it as far as Switzerland. I guess they didn't want to let me out of the country. So,
well, Switzerland's a lovely place.
Yeah, it is. I'd love to go back. It's been a lot of years since I've been there. So, well, Steve, before we get into talking about this great new album of yours, I want to thank you first of all for taking the time to chat with me, and secondly for all the years of music that you've provided, man. Some great heavy duty stuff there. So thank you very much for all of that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, 46 years this year since I joined the band. So that's pretty good going, really.
Yeah. So you think it might work out?
Yeah, I don't think I'll have to get a proper job anytime soon.
Well, I love the new album. I definitely picked up your vibe on the whole thing, but is definitely a very remarkable album, and I'm excited to talk with you about it. Tell me a little bit about it. What or who initiated that? Because you were working with Thorsten on there, and so it became a team effort with you. So tell me how that all came about. What got you guys interested in working together on it?
Well, we both did the Cruise to the Edge in 2014. And I mean, I'd listened to Tangerine Dream growing up when I was 15, 16, Ricochet and Stratosphere albums. Thorsten, who's a big Marillion fan, came to see our show in Berlin at December 2018. And we arranged to meet up for a coffee, and we just chatted and said it might be interesting to try working together one day. So I actually flew to Berlin the following February just for a couple of days to sort of see how it would be. And it felt quite promising. But it was only the year after that, in the March of 2020, when Thorsten was over for some solo shows in the UK, that we got together at the Marillion studio, and we had an afternoon jam in there, which went really, really well. Lots of great ideas. Then the pandemic happened and the world stopped for about a year and a half. But then by December of the following year, I'd started this thing of flying to Berlin for like 5 or 6 days at a time, usually in December, and we'd just start developing the ideas, really.
What did you find that there was synergies between you two, or was it something where you both appreciated each other's talents, but it took some some effort to get the two styles to blend together?
Not
On
really. It was pretty effortless from the first note. I found what he did incredibly inspirational. So I just did what I do on top of what he does. So, it was that kind of musical conversation, really. And I think it surprised us both how well it worked, really. Sometimes you try working with other musicians and other writers, and it doesn't always gel. It can be a little bit awkward, like you're not in the same groove somehow. And with this, there was none of that. It was from the first session, really. It just felt very natural.
hmm Did you both come together with songs already pre-written, or did you just basically collaborate right there and create it on the spot?
It was all created on the spot, really.
Wow.
And yeah, it was just a very different way of working. I mean, in the meantime, I'd played a couple of times live with Tangerine Dream, so I kind of understood that side of what was required with this sort of music. But I think what we've done with it is something a little bit different to that, and there's a lot more changes and a lot more melody in Bioscope, um, and that just came about really. It's like I say, it's very natural, very unpretentious, unforced, no egos, no crosswords, just sheer pleasure of making music.
It seems like for me, and I don't know if you would attest to this by your own experience or what you've witnessed, but it seems like years ago, I mean, you brought up egos. It seems like, in other bands and such, I don't know what it's been like for you, but it seems like in other bands, egos, if they weren't checked at the door, it usually created problems in the creative process, and it would be chalked up to being just part of the process. Is how the sausage is made, as the old saying goes. But it seems like these days, especially people of our generation, the baby boomer generation and such, it seems like I'm hearing more and more that everybody's getting along well together for the most part, and that conflict is the exception instead of the rule, and that there's a lot of great stuff happening as a result of that. Would you agree with that?
I think so. I think as you do get older, you get more perspective. I think when people are maybe kind of up until their 40s, really, are just too wrapped up in themselves, or some people are, usually singers. Um, that it makes it, difficult to have that completely relaxed attitude because, when you're a musician, you play your instrument, you do your job. But I think for singers, it demands so much more from them, sort of psychologically, and maybe in a way they give a lot more. But because of that, I think they're quite vulnerable a lot of them, sort of emotionally, and yeah, that can manifest itself in different ways. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the joys of making instrumental music.
Yep. You don't have to deal with lead singer syndrome, right? So
Exactly. And also, it's very difficult when you decide to work with a singer. I mean, if you like on a solo project, you're like, is it the right voice? Do they have great pitch? Have you got the right lyrics? Is the key of the song right for the singer? How long are you gonna have to spend editing their performances? It's loads and loads of different things. Where with this, you just go in a room and create.
well, the fact that you guys created together on the spot instead of bringing an armload of songs together. I mean, I'm not a musician, but I've taken music theory in my youth, and so I have an appreciation. I was in concert choir in high school, so
Oh, cool.
I have a very tiny idea of some of this stuff. But for you guys to get together, I mean, this album's got a lot of great music on there. It's not like four very long songs. It's a bunch of different music on there, and
Absolutely.
I mean, that's remarkable that you guys created it together, essentially on the spot. Is that a rare occurrence for you to do that, or is that something that you're used to doing?
Well, I tend to write a lot in that kind of way. But I don't think Thorsten, maybe he is, but not in quite this, ever developing new things coming out of it all the time, adding, editing, just sort of transforming it over a period of time, really. But it's a great way of working. I mean, I've always sort of improvised a lot with what I do in Marillion and my other projects. It's just the way the subconscious mind works. If you have the musical knowledge, you're not necessarily thinking through the theory of what should I do here. It's just instinctive.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. The album has a very cinematic feel to it, and I know that Thorsten's work has had a lot to do with, he done a lot of work in the film and
Yeah.
TV industries and such. Did is this cinematic feel mostly because of where he's coming from, or do you feel like you equally influenced it in that direction the same way?
Yeah, no, I think we both equally influenced that really. I think as the ideas developed, you got this sense of a very sort of cinematic soundscape that we were both creating. And that kind of informed the choices when it came to naming the project and naming the tracks, because it was like loads of little soundtracks, to movies that hadn't been made yet.
Hmm.
And what was fascinating, we had a Dolby Atmos playback last week in London, and
Mm.
we have a great guy in the UK, Patrick Dunn, who has done computer generated videos for all the tracks apart from one called the title track Gento, which my daughter did. But it all looked absolutely fantastic. And to see it while listening to the Dolby Atmos surround mix was, an incredible experience. Very, very immersive.
I've heard that, and I'm glad you used that word because a couple weeks ago I interviewed the new singer for Foreigner, Luis Maldonado, and he was talking about Dolby Atmos, and he said, "Man, I want one of these for my home." And then he found out how much it would cost to do.
Yeah.
But I
And yeah,
asked, I've not experienced listening to anything that way in the same kind of environment like you're talking about. And I asked if it was immersive, and he kind of went a little bit different direction on that. But the way you describe it, I mean, it just sounds like it just hits you from every
yeah,
conceivable angle to the human body as well as the ear. Is that a fair way of
yeah.
putting it?
Yeah, it's like the way I can describe it is you're inside the music and the music is happening in this whole 360-degree, not only like a 5.1 surround, but like the height dimension as well. So it is just really, yeah, it's an incredible experience. I mean, it's a shame that it's such an expensive setup, really, and also I don't think many wives would appreciate you drilling holes in the ceiling to put the speakers there, really. Uh, but I mean, there's the Apple's immersive audio, which is a similar kind of system on headphones and iPods, so you get some of that sense of spatial distance. But yeah, I mean, if I could afford it, I'd have one at home.
Well, I was talking to two men who wrote a book on the record plant, the three recording studios here in the States. And they were talking about how there was always this push and this search and this drive to have the best possible sound. And I brought up, this Dolby Atmos, and I asked them, and I'll ask you the same question. Do you think we'll ever get to the point where we'll say, okay, sound development is no longer needed. We have reached the ultimate level of being able to listen to sound. Will we ever get there, in your opinion?
I think Dolby Atmos really is the end of the road as far as I can see. I can't imagine what else you could do to make it more of an involving experience. Uh, I mean, obviously, it's something that evolved from the cinema surround sound system. And that's probably the way most people are ever going to experience it, really, unless you get a chance to go to a playback in a studio or go to visit your rich friend who has this amazing $50,000 setup in one of his cinema rooms, and then
Yeah, one of
y-
them, yeah.
yeah, um, but it is no, it's incredible. I mean, I was very cynical when it was kind of first launched because it just seemed like another way of the record companies selling you the same album again.
Yeah.
They've done it from the first CDs to the remasters to the high resolution audio version to the 5.1 version, and now we have Dolby Atmos. So put your hand in your pocket; it's going to be expensive.
Or walk backwards out the door, right? So
Yeah, yeah, one of the two. Listen to your wife.
did that's right. You better. So
Yeah, yeah.
did you and Thorsten have a certain kind of movie type or a certain kind of video in mind when you guys were writing these songs? I know for me as a creative writer of not music, but just stuff to read, I might have a certain audience in mind. I picture certain people that oh, that person might appreciate the way this is worded. So, did you guys have any type of genre of film or TV or video in mind when you were putting this together?
The only direction that I gave to Thorsten was when we were writing Gento. I wanted something in 7/8, but I said it'd be good to have something that was like a journey, a bit like that bit in Risky Business on the train, which
Hmm.
is Tangerine Dream to the music, funnily enough. So he kind of understood where I was coming from. So that was the only thing, really. I mean, I love film soundtracks. Everything from Ry Cooder's Paris, Texas soundtrack, yeah, to Vangelis's work, and especially Blade Runner. Um, a lot of Hans Zimmer stuff's amazing for the Nolan films. So yeah, no, that I find that in a way, I suppose, more consistently inspiring than a lot of music you hear from bands. I mean, you have your favorite bands. Usually made three or four outstanding albums and a few not quite so good. Um, but great soundtracks seem to have a different aspect to them, really. Maybe because the aim isn't to stand up on their own 2 feet as an artistic statement. They just do the job, complementing the images. But yeah, it's always been a big influence on me, even when I was young. Some of the first albums I bought were kind of soundtrack albums.
Ah, which ones? What is
Um,
your most favorite?
Well, John Barry, he's the Bond themes,
Mhm.
and there's an English composer called Ron Goodwin that did a lot of the war movies, Battle of Britain, 633 Squadron. And I think he might have done the music for the beginning of Where Eagles Dare. Amazing,
Wow.
amazing clip where this three-engined German plane is flying through the Alps, and it's this incredibly pulsing, dramatic music. So that's yeah, that kind of thing has sort of resonated with me, yeah, since I was young.
Wow. How long did the album take for you guys to make?
Well, I suppose you could say that we started it in 2019, but if you added up all the time that we spent in the same room, it's probably no more than 5 weeks. Culminating in the last session we did in Berlin last December, where uh, we decided to put real drums in it. And we kind of looked around for which drummer we might want to use. And a friend of mine had recommended Alex, and we loved his work with Elbow. And yeah, Thorsten flew across to London in March, and we went to Alex's studio for a couple of days, and he did the whole album in 2 days. An amazing performance. In fact, he's playing with us when we play live in December. Alex is coming on the road with us, so that's very exciting.
Cool. How was this album most different for you to put together compared to everything else you've worked on?
Having a partner that you absolutely trust and who you see things the same was yeah, it was really quite a pleasant experience. The only thing that And this isn't really a negative, it's just how he is. It's Thorsten sometimes is not one of the world's great communicators. So you'd kind of send him emails or WhatsApp messages and nothing would happen for like days or sometimes weeks. You know, it's like tumbleweed blows past and that occasionally could be frustrating, but that's the only my only gripe in all the time I've worked with him. And he understands that. It's just yeah, artistic temperament. What can you say?
Maybe a generational thing too. I have people like that. I'll send something. I'm kind of expecting a reply in, 2 minutes, and it may be
Yeah.
2 or 3 days before I hear back. And it's like, all right, but
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I tend to reply as soon as physically possible with things.
yeah,
Uh, so it doesn't get on top of you because there's so much happening. I mean, with this album, I've done so many interviews already. All have been, amazingly well received. But sorting out the tour in December, sorting out lots of other stuff. Um, Making another album at the moment with Steve Hackett, which I'm just
ah,
nearly finishing off. So yeah, my life is pretty busy. I start working in the studio with Marillion again in about another 3 weeks, trying to finish the new Marillion album. So yeah, I'm never short of things to do.
Steve's a great guy. I've interviewed him several times. He's very kind,
Yeah.
very gracious with an interview. In fact, I'd love to talk with him again. I know he just came out with an album recently, and I would love to chat with him on this. What would you say? What would you point to on the song? Because I know songs are like kids, and we're not supposed to say who our favorite kid is if we have more than one. But which song would you point to on this album as the calling card for the album?
I think one of my favorite ones is the first track, Vanishing Point. So I think it's got
Mhm.
so many different places that it goes. It's like a real journey. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm really proud of. That and Kaleidoscope, because that's just something so
Yeah,
different to the rest of the record.
yeah, I agree with you. I'm right there with you on that. What has been the preliminary buzz on this? I know the album hasn't dropped yet, but people
Oh,
like
it's
such as myself and your family and friends have heard it. So what are you hearing back so far?
the response has been overwhelmingly positive. I sent a download to Dave Megan, the producer that we use a lot of the classic Marillion albums, and he absolutely loves it. He said he's been playing it on repeat, and he said it's very great to work to, and yeah, so that was a great compliment from him because I respect his opinions. Um,
Mhm.
so yes, so far everyone absolutely loves it.
Well, good, good. I'm glad to hear that. I want to shift gears a little bit and look at the music business in general. You've been in it a day or two, right? So
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
seen a
yeah,
lot. You've seen a
yeah.
lot of changes in this business on all levels, whether it's technology, styles, business process, whatever. I mean, there's so many changes that have taken place, and you've seen it from the inside out. What would you say are the best and worst changes you've seen in the music business during your career?
I think the best thing, the rise of the internet, um, in terms of taking away the control that a lot of the media and radio stations had to dictate the public's taste.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the only downside to that now is that there's so much new music released every day that, unless you're very lucky or you've got great people working for you, it's going to get lost in the noise. It's just more music than you could probably ever listen to in your lifetime. Um, and I think for young bands, you're trying to survive in a streaming world is very difficult because it just doesn't generate the income you need for music to be a career. It can be a hobby or a part-time job, but you have to reach that threshold where it's a viable option to pay your rent or your mortgage. And I think that's a struggle for a lot of young bands.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's from what I'm hearing from artists too, it's, anymore the labels want to have an artist who's already developed their following
Yeah.
and they do their own merchandise and incur all the cost. And then if you can bring all that to the table, they'll be glad to sign a contract with you and take every bit of that away from you,
Yeah. If you've done
already
all,
ready made.
yeah, if you've
It's
done
like,
their job
why do
for
we
them.
need the label
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, no, it is very, very difficult, really, for young bands, and we live these days with the TikTok generation. It's music is a commodity that you have in the background of your whatever the video is, cat video or something crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but I think that's in a way that's what's cool about the Bioscope album. It's a bit of a throwback to the days when people did care, where you'd get the record and you'd lovingly open it up and read the all the credits and the background and look at the photos, and you absorb it in a different way than, oh yeah, I streamed that on Spotify or Apple Music, and yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
good. You're not as emotionally invested in a record that way as you are if you put your hand in your pocket and actually pay for it. And
Yep.
I think, yeah, it's just a shame more people don't do that. They'll go and spend $5, $6 at a cappuccino somewhere, but they wouldn't dream of spending $10 to buy an album.
Yep. Well, I remember when I first launched Boomerocity over 16 years ago, I had the privilege of sitting in front of Sam Andrew of Big Brother and the Holding Company, Janis
Right.
Joplin's first band. And what he said to me, I've never forgotten it. I've got it, I still have the audio from that conversation. He said, Randy, when we came out, we were creating this stuff. Nobody had ever done it. We're inventing new sounds, this, that, and the other. He goes, now you have schools that crank out 500 graduates that can play Hendrix as well as Hendrix.
Yeah.
And so everything has been commoditized. Everything's been reduced down to a disposable type of thing. And I'm right there with you, man. I loved going when, you anticipated an album release. You'd run down to the store, you'd plop down your $3.99 for a brand new release of Elton John or Aerosmith or whoever, run home, put it on the turntable and start reading all the liner notes. And I mean,
Yeah.
I was a geek. I liked to know who was producing, who were the session
Yeah.
musicians, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's, we don't even listen to whole songs. And, for a musician, I know how frustrating that is, because for me, I mean, I've been doing this for over 16 years, and I'm amazed at how many people are doing what I do now.
Mm.
And it's hard to get attention, even, from my side of the microphone. So I recognize the challenge. You guys, even at your level and already being known, it's still a challenge to try to get people to, as you say, put their hands in their pockets and come out with a buck or two to
Yeah.
support bands.
And I think it's really has turned around these days that it's all about the live performance. If you have a reasonable fan base, you can do quite well live. But getting to that point again, it's like, how do you get to that tipping point where you're playing to a large enough audience to justify you starving or or your children
Yeah.
starving? Um, yeah, no, it's a difficult situation, really. I mean, one of the things I did in recent years is a thing called the British Guitar Academy, where I've had some of the top UK players, and we do like a masterclass and a talk.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of it wasn't really about the technical side. It was about why you should play a certain thing. And it comes down to playing what the song requires, not wanting to show off your amazing chops, your ego. And it's like you got to learn the lesson, play what the song needs, play what makes the song better. And that's, I think, a lesson that a lot of people could still learn.
Yep, I agree. There's enough shredders out there, aren't there? I mean, okay,
Yeah,
so you can get lost in the notes, and I realize it's kind of like in the movie Amadeus. The king said, "You played too many notes," and
yeah,
Amadeus said, "Well, which ones would you like for me to remove?"
yeah,
But
yeah,
but at the same time, like you said, I think a true artist, a true musician, has a feel for what's needed, and
yeah.
they play the
I think
exact notes, nothing more, nothing less.
I mean, shredding can be spectacular, mainly to other guitarists. But they're the ones that are going to really care. But players who play with emotion and passion and atmosphere and melody, they're the ones that people will go away, you know, touched by or singing the melodies in their head. Um,
Hmm.
that's the beauty about music is it has that emotional kind of connection with you. And I don't really shredding. It's a spectator sport. But it's not something that will necessarily connect with your emotions.
Who's commanding your attention these days as a guitarist?
Oh, I tend to still listen to a lot of the classic guys. Actually, it's been really interesting actually working with Steve Hackett because the stuff we've done together, it's all instrumental. Again, it's a little bit cinematic, but it's some of the best playing I've heard from him in a long, long time. It's absolutely amazing some of the stuff that he's done. Um, so that's been a really gratifying experience for me. But other than that, I mean, the late great Jeff Beck was someone that never ceased to amaze me, really. I mean, you watch that live at Ronnie Scott's concert, and just phenomenal, really.
Yeah, yeah. It's and it makes you wonder what's going to happen after this. One thing speaking of that, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts about AI and how it's going to impact the music industry? Because my concern is, you know, coming from a different direction, all these big, deep pockets of money are buying up all these music catalogs on one
Yeah,
side of things, and then you have AI coming in from another. I mean, probably after you and I are dead and gone, I could see where those two things start meshing together, and then they can do whatever they want with those catalogs and AI and recreate and whatever.
yeah. Well,
Does
yeah.
it get
Oh,
lost?
we're fast approaching those days. I mean, Spotify creates its own AI tracks and feeds them to people because they don't have to pay the artist royalty, even though that's so tiny. I mean, AI, there's some very useful production tools for AI in music. But the danger is, if AI gets sophisticated enough that you can train it to recreate literally anything, so well, write me a new Beatles album um, or the new Pink Floyd album, and it can do something. It can analyze and compute all the factors involved in that to give you something that if you didn't know better, you wouldn't know, really. And I think that's quite a
Yeah.
scary thought. But having said that, I can't imagine AI doing what we've done with this Bioscope album because it's just too weird, really, in terms of how the two of us interacted and how the ideas developed. I don't know. I suppose there's nothing impossible when it comes to that, but yeah, it's a strange time. But the scary thing is if generations grow up and listening to AI music is just as good for them as listening to proper music.
Mm, yeah. Well, I hope that happens after we're gone because
Yeah,
I don't want
me
I don't
too.
want any part of that. So
Yeah.
so what's on your radar for the rest of the year? And support plan. You mentioned some shows, things like that. What's on the agenda for
Uh,
2025?
Back in the studio with Marillion on August the 12th, carrying work on the new album. We have a couple of live shows. We have a festival on a beach in Cornwall at the end of September, and then the last Marillion weekend in Utrecht in the Netherlands at the beginning of December. I'll be finishing off the things for the Steve Hackett album the next month or two. Yeah, and then after the Marillion weekend, that's when I have these five Bioscope shows, two in the Netherlands, two in Germany, and finishing off in Warsaw in Poland.
Hmm. Wow, sounds fun. Are you well? Do you think any of that will be filmed and put out for public consumption?
Yeah, I'm talking about trying to get the Warsaw show filmed,
Hmm.
even if it's just for promotion, because these are kind of like showcase shows. We have an amazing light show and video walls and these great videos and great sound guy. So if we can capture something that shows the band in the best possible light, I think it'd be very, very interesting for the people that maybe won't get a chance to see us live in the short term.
Oh, well, cool. Well, when the new Marillion album comes out and yours and Steve's album come out, I would love to talk to you again in support of all that. I mean, I'm going to do my part to get the word out, and
Yeah.
it'd be, and I've have my experience with talking with Steve, as I said earlier. So to have you guys together even would be a lot of fun to just.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do a joint Zoom or something once. I mean, it's probably going to be sometime next year when that album comes out, but
Right.
definitely going to be worth the wait.
All right. Well, yeah, definitely. And how about the Marillion album? When can we expect that?
I'd like to think it's going to be sort of June, July, or possibly September next year.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully we can meet back up like this and have another good chat. And in the meantime, please stay safe, stay healthy. And I
Yes.
look forward to a lot more chats and a lot more music from you in the future.
Cheers. Thanks, Brandy.
All right. Take care.
Thanks. Take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been another fun-filled episode of Boomerocity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quentin Hope. Quentin is spelled Quinten, and Hope is Hope. And you can find out more about Quentin at quentinhope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerocity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerocity and or its assignees. Inquiries should be directed to input@boomerocity.com. Copyright 2025.